Welcome again to another session of the 18th annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment virtual conference. I'm Bob Hales. I'm your moderator. Don't forget this year we have as a sponsor the Journal of Educators Online, JEO. They have terrific refereed articles going back to 2004. Bound to be something of interest. Just go to thejeo.com and you can scan the articles. We have with us today Kevin Huey.
Tui.
Oh, good. Kevin is an associate professor of pharmacy practice and assistant program director for the Doctor of Pharmacy online pathway at Butler University in the College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. He teaches in the pharmacy therapeutics courses and an internal medicine pharmacy elective for both the campus-based and online pathways. Kevin, let me turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you for inviting me to present this material. Um, and so I titled the presentation "Improving the Digital Welcome: Transforming an Online Doctor of Pharmacy Orientation Experience." And so I'm gonna tell you the story of we're gonna say our relatively new online Doctor of Pharmacy degree, and kind of some of the bumps in the road that we experienced when we first started, and kind of how did we make improvements as time has gone on. So, want to start by talking about the Butler University Doctor of Pharmacy program in general. So, due to accreditation language, we actually use the term pathways to describe the different forms of instruction that we use. And so the accreditation wants us to be considered as one program, but just with two different learning pathways, that we are working with the same curriculum, and the same course outcomes and program outcomes. And so, if I were to compare or give the history of the college, or of the College of Pharmacy, we have had a campus-based program that dates back to the early 1900s. So we have well over 100 years established of having a pharmacy school, and have over 100 years of graduating pharmacists into the practice world. Currently, our professional-based campus-based program has about 280 current students, and that's over a 4-year span. So the way that pharmacy schools refer to our students in the professional phases, we call them P1 being the first professional year, P2, P3, and then P4. Our online program currently has 45 students. And so again, we started in fall of 2022. And so we currently now have students in each of the four professional years. And so we will be graduating our first online cohort come May of 2026. And so one of the reasons why we created our online pathway was because traditionally Butler, being based in Indianapolis, has been a relatively regional school. So we have a lot of students from the surrounding states. So Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan. And so we're really proud of our program. We've been very successful in our NAPLEX pass rates. So that if you don't know, the NAPLEX is the licensure exam that all students in the country have to take in order to be licensed pharmacists in their states. And so we've been really successful as a campus-based pathway for a very long time. And so we decided to kind of expand our horizons, and really kind of open up the program for anyone to do it where they lived. And so that was important to us. So we started that process in early 2022, with our first cohort being to start in fall of 2022. So some of our highlights, our curriculum for our online pathway is identical to the campus-based curriculum. And so we have to do that for accreditation purposes, but we wouldn't change the curriculum anyway, just because it was online instruction. The only thing that we did do with our curriculum is the course sequence might be a little bit different than the campus-based sequence, and that's usually due to faculty availability and timing of the year. But the curriculum is identical as far as the courses themselves and all of the outcomes involved with that. So the online pathway Doctor of Pharmacy is a 4-year degree. And so the first 3 years are what I'm going to put in quotes, classroom instruction. This classroom just happens to be an online setting, but I'll still think of it as classroom modality. And then the 4th year consists of 10 month-long experiential rotations. And so this is where our students go out into the real world. They will do 4-week rotations. We'll say a few at community pharmacies, a few in hospital pharmacies, some on patient floors. They might be rotations within the pharmaceutical industry. There's even academic experience rotations. So there's a wide variety of different rotations, and this is all pharmacy schools have this experiential component in their final year, and so this is no longer at this point. The students, even though some of these rotations may have virtual components to them, these students, even though they learned their pharmacy knowledge in an online in the online pathway, they are out and about in the real world, practicing at that point. And so, because of the online teaching modality, some of the things that we're unable to do in the online setting. So things such as pharmacy labs, that have to be hands-on experiences. So making IV medications, making compounded external medications, or specific combinations of medications that are not available commercially. So this is one of the skills that all pharmacy students learn in order to go into the practice. And these really can't be done simulated over over Zoom, or that's how we do most of our things. So for 3 times during their those first 3 years, the students do come to campus for a week, and they do their laboratory activities. They are assessed on their abilities to give vaccinations. They are assessed on their abilities to do skills like take blood pressure. So things that couldn't be done online, they do. And they do come to campus, and this is also a great experience for them to feel as part of the Butler community. We're located in Indianapolis, Indiana, but we've had students come from Florida, Utah, Arizona, New Jersey. So we've had students all over the country, and these weeks where they come to campus, that is a time when they get to meet the faculty face to face, get to meet some of our other students, get to meet each other. That first time that they actually meet during their first immersion is actually kind of a cool social setting, in that, even though they've been working with each other, they've been attending virtual classes together, it's the first time many of them actually kind of are able to sit next to someone and have a conversation. So up until this year's admission cycle, we had always required our online pathway students to have a bachelor's degree, and so these are not students out of high school. These are students, or at least the ones in our first 4 cohorts, already had significant college experience. They all had a degree, and so these were in some ways veteran students. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, and which will actually kind of be helpful when I describe the orientation process. most of our campus-based students actually do come to us from high school. So if they come from high school directly to Butler's campus-based pathway for pharmacy, their first 2 years are essentially the prerequisites and kind of the core curriculum for the university that the students will complete. And then in their third year, that's where they would enter at the same spot where our online students are entering into that first professional year. And so, in order to get the program up and running, we actually worked with an OPM, and so online program management company named Noodle to help us create our online pathway from the ground up. And so, what we did not want to do, and we purposefully did not do this, was we did not just want to record our campus-based lectures and then post them online for students to learn that way. Because as we all know that online teaching, there is a science to it. There are ways of doing it that are going to be more effective potentially than just trying to, we'll say, recycle previously recorded lectures. So everything that we did very intentionally in order to deliver a consistent and well, we'll say, well-researched type of teaching modality within our online pathway. So again, the campus courses were adapted to the online format. They just weren't, we'll say, recycled. And utilizing the learning designers and the experts over at Noodle, they really did kind of help us come up with a format that is conducive to online learning. And so faculty had freedom to develop their materials independently. They were not told, how they had to like create their assignments or videos or different things like that. But one thing that the program did require was that everyone used the same format and we use Canvas as our LMS. And so here on this slide, you can see here for our online content, it follows a very specific format. So we have a module. So in this case, this would be module 3 within one of our therapeutics courses. It's hypertension, part 1. And then each of the different sections of the module are clearly labeled. A is introduction, then you have A1, A2. And so this format was created so that students would essentially go into a module and then click on each of these different these hyperlinks, and that would bring them to the next thing that they were expected to do or learn, whether it was an assignment, a reading, watch a video. And so this was how all of our courses were created with this kind of sequential, format that was built into all of the courses. And so we decided, for our Doctor of Pharmacy online pathway that we would use a flipped classroom with weekly live sessions. And so the students were expected to work on each module so one module is 1 week. So they would work on the module before a live session. And then once a week in each of our classes, we would have a live synchronous session to review the material, apply it, do some group sessions. In some courses, there are patient cases that we discuss. And so the live session has always been intended to be kind of a practical applied learning and not a lecture. That's not what we were going for. We wanted the traditional lecture type of material to be done in the flipped classroom online modules. So our courses are not a work at your own pace. So they are very much scheduled, and so every week students are expected, to attend their live sessions and to be prepared prior to attending those live sessions by having gone through and worked through the material, studied it, and completed whatever assignments were expected of that module. And so you can see here, this is how we conduct our live sessions. We got our larger cohort on the top, Our second year cohort at the time was about double the size of our first cohort, which is at the bottom. But you can kind of still see here the cohort sizes were relatively small. So as faculty, I was able to get to know all of the students pretty well in this setting, and so we definitely enjoy the synchronous components to our teaching and to our courses. It has allowed us to develop relationships with our students. So, what do we do for orientation? Well, we have kind of two components to the current orientation, and it's been like this for a couple of years. And so I know the picture or the screenshot's kind of small in this slide, but kind of intentionally because I wanted to kind of show, and this is only a portion of, we have a Doctor of Pharmacy orientation Canvas page or course, and this is made available to all students in their first professional year, usually about a month or so, or at least a few weeks before the beginning of the fall semester. So this is rolled out to not only our campus students but also our online students, and you can see here. I say that it is densely packed with information, and so it's almost like a I don't know, the word I use often is it's almost a dumping ground of information, and I have on there that there is less than 100% student engagement. I think when they see kind of the dryness of this and just the massive amount of things that are included on it. I think a lot of them just kind of their attention spans, get the better of them, and they don't make it through much of it oftentimes. And I've been told that by students through the years that in a lot of ways it's not really very helpful for them, but it is a way to get very specific information out there, and that we can refer to it as faculty when someone does have a question. Say, well, if you go into your orientation course, you'll be able to find it in module 3 or something like that. And then they do have access to this orientation page throughout the next 4 years. So again, it is something that can be used as a reference for them to refer back to when necessary. Okay, so I'm going to start. Before talking about our online orientation, I'm going to say, what do we do in the campus-based orientation? So our tradition has been the day before the fall semester begins, we bring in all of the students beginning their first professional year for about a half a day of we'll say sessions, usually in the morning. And so the top picture there, that was this past fall's orientation. And so during this first half day, we have our introductions, the dean, the different associate deans, the Office of Student Success, and different pharmacy program leaders, faculty come in. They introduce themselves. They give words of encouragement. There's not really a lot of, we'll say, a lot of really important information being talked about during this. It's a lot of this is very much kind of an introduction not only to the to the professional phase of the program, but also to the profession. Oftentimes we'll have some partners. We work with different pharmacy chains such as CVS and Kroger, and they kind of rotate. They'll buy lunch for the students during the orientation. So and that gives them a chance to kind of plug their companies for potential future employment and things like that. And then we usually break for lunch, and the students will meet their academic advisors. So in our campus-based program, if the student comes out of high school for the first 2 years, they have a academic advisor for those 2 years, but then the academic advisor switches in the first professional year. And so that's why we have this lunch. It's really most likely their first time meeting that faculty who will be their advisor for the next 4 years. And then in the afternoon, you can see kind of there on the bottom, we use one of the atriums in our neighboring building, and we have a program fair where different student organizations or different faculty will talk about different academic and research opportunities. So it's a way for these these new professional students to kind of to get involved. And so it's a really cool, nice day. But um, I'll tell you kind of what we'll say the mistake I'm going to call it that I made in that first year for the for our online students. So the first attempt, which was our first cohort in 2022, I essentially replicated what they did on campus. And so I had about a 2-hour session planned, and I utilized many of the same slides that they used in the campus orientation preparation. I had I had all of the important, introductions done. So we had the dean, we had the pharmacy leadership team, we had our Office of Student Success, our experiential education office. Everyone was on the Zoom meeting to say hi to the students, kind of introduce who they were. And so it was very much an online version of what we do on campus every year. But again, what we do on campus is different because most of our students who are starting in their first professional year have already been with us for 2 years. They've been with us since high school, and so there doesn't have to be a lot of very specific information given at that orientation, and a lot of it is kind of like it's really kind of a big welcome. And so I did, going back to that first online orientation, I did a curriculum overview. We discussed the immersions where they would have to come to campus and when they would have to come. I did touch on that, that we do have student organizations here on campus that actually help with free peer-to-peer tutoring. And so I discussed that. Very light discussion on the LMS, which is Canvas, and kind of how the courses were set up. And you can kind of see there on the bottom screenshot of the one of the slides used that year, the course model for online classes. So you could see here, if you were to read that, there's not a lot of detail. It's a brief explanation, but not a lot of detail. And then we did the same thing. We did a virtual lunch with the academic advisors for these students where we did breakout rooms and things like that. So the first year, even though it was successful, we got to meet all the students. What we learned pretty quickly afterwards was it didn't quite hit the mark. So in our first cohort, our first semester experience where students were struggling with the process. They were often unprepared to come to those live sessions where they were supposed to kind of do the module work before coming and then be ready to discuss or be able to apply that material. And many weren't. Many it was very evident that that live session was kind of like the first time that they were even engaging with the material. And so we kind of felt like they were almost thinking that the live sessions were supposed to be lectures where they were going to learn the material, as opposed to utilizing the flipped classroom method and having worked on the material beforehand. The other thing that we found was that students were like cherry picking what they were doing. So they were finding the different aspects of a module that maybe had points associated with them. So they might have been the assignments, they might have been the quizzes or different activities. And they were just doing those without kind of doing the sequential, order of the module. And so they were clicking on activities and maybe not being very successful because they hadn't spent the time working on the material as it was intended to be worked on. And then what we did with a lot of our online instruction was we created videos that kind of replaced the lectures that we would normally do in the classroom. And we could definitely tell by looking at the statistics of the videos that many were not being watched. And so my assumption is that students were downloading slides that corresponded with the video and with the material, but they weren't really listening to kind of the faculty who was teaching, and they were actually missing a lot of, we'll say, explanation behind things and also kind of nuances, or even just like the examples that would be verbally discussed in a video that were not necessarily contained within the slides that were posted or handouts. And then on the opposite side, you had faculty frustration was pretty high. And so, I mean, countless amount of hours were spent in the buildup of these semesters. And so what we did, we created the courses starting about 6 to 8 months before the semester started. So faculty would work really hard in order to create and kind of convert their normal courses into online courses. And so everyone had expectations that the students were going to, do everything purposefully and perfectly. And so there was a lot of frustration when students were coming somewhat unprepared for for these live sessions. And so then a lot of time that was supposed to be spent, doing these active learning type of activities had to be adjusted and kind of redirected to kind of do more basic lecturing type of activities. And so what we found in that first year that many of the active learning techniques were not very successful. Faculty were spending a lot of time with like technical questions about Canvas and other kind of online tools. And in all honesty, their expectations were not being met. Their workload had increased, and the experience really wasn't great for that first semester. And I would say also that morale was kind of low at the time. So we knew that improvement was necessary. So we had to identify what were the student needs, and then how were we going to address them. So a few things that we, kind of like, basic things were we needed further guidance on how to use Canvas and the different course tools. We needed further guidance on general success in academic programs, and particularly online programs. And we needed further guidance on how to appropriately and adequately engage fellow students and faculty to get the full course experience. The way that I've described it in the past was we had to teach the students how to take our classes. It wasn't necessarily readily apparent that, for instance, that you're supposed to follow sequentially in order, and that way that would be the best way to learn the material. We never explained that to the first cohort, so they were kind of on their own. And I would say they were doing the best that they could, but there definitely was a learning curve. There's always a learning curve with our first year, but we didn't set the first cohort up with the tools that they really kind of needed for success. So in our collaboration with Noodle, because we were still creating courses, we were creating them right before the semesters would start. So myself, I had weekly meetings with Noodle to kind of to talk about how we can improve not only the orientation side of things, but also our courses. How could we make our courses more intuitive in order to kind of help the students with some of those issues that we saw early on? The other thing that we did is that our faculty had a very good open internal communication. So we talked to each other. What's working well in your course? What's not working well? We even had specific sessions where we got together for a few hours and faculty kind of shared, what was working well for them, what they thought would work well, but maybe didn't. And so that sharing, we called it best practices sessions. I think were really helpful in order to, one, that we could each see that we weren't alone in our potential frustrations, and that we could work together to kind of make something a little bit more cohesive. And so we started planning for a new type of orientation for the next cohort. And so when we kind of look at, well, what did we need to do? we needed to create an on-demand access to resources and tools, interactive orientation modules, and integration with academic advisors and support staff. This is what we felt if we could put these things together, that we would have a more robust orientation. And so when we look at it like from a pyramid approach, we revamped things. So we needed a personalizing orientation for student needs. We had to identify what the students actually needed, as opposed to making the assumptions that what we had been doing in our classroom or campus-based pathway would work for our online students. So we did reach out, or I did reach out to our students in that first cohort and kind of just tried to brainstorm and get ideas, feedback, what could we do to improve it? And then create additional support for built courses. And so going in and making sure that that there was, we'll say, manpower to kind of help with making sure that the courses as they were built were meeting not only the needs of the curriculum of the faculty, but especially of the students. And then we needed immediate feedback and peer-to-peer interaction. And so this was all kind of things that we put together in order to kind of come up with what I will call Orientation 2.0. So our first year's orientation was a 2-hour one-time session, and we changed it to a 3-day event. And so what these 3 days consisted of in that second year in 2023 was 3 days of daily 2-hour sessions, mimicking a mini week of live sessions. So we kind of wanted to make the orientation kind of like a preview of what the live sessions would look like, during the semester, during the life of the program. So a new Canvas course was created in the format of the that we had been using for our courses, and I'll show you some examples of that in subsequent slides. So in order to mimic what, or at least kind of preview what the students would be doing in their courses, we gave them assignments during the orientation week in order to kind of emphasize that flipped classroom concept. And that it wasn't just, faculty coming in, introducing themselves and having the students sitting there silently, which is kind of what we did in that first year. We wanted to make it discussion based. We wanted interaction. We wanted to get the students to get to meet each other, to know each other, become more, to become more familiar with each other, as they start their courses. And then also, instead of just talking about like the courses themselves, we started introducing things like learning theory, how to be more productive as a student, and a better awareness of the systems and the support services that were available to the students. So the 2023 Orientation Canvas course looked very much like any one of our other courses would look like. And so we had, our module numbering and our lettering, all of the same format that we would normally use. And what I also tried to do here was I also tried to get some discussion board content started in order to get students used to using discussion boards, because we found in the first year that they weren't really using that functionality. And I would say it was successful during orientation, but I think because we do have weekly live sessions, discussion boards in our courses, are not utilized as much as they would be in more asynchronous sessions. So again, the goal was to create an orientation that looked more like the courses the students would be taking. And so here's just kind of more of the things, and I'll go through a couple of the things here. So on Module 2, which was the second day, the first day we kind of kept very similar to the year before, where it was the introductions, meet the advisor. But on the second day was really kind of where we dug into how to take the courses themselves. And so if you're able to see the slide, we did things like we talked about the course home screen, and then the module screens, the types of different module activities. And then here's something I decided to do. I posted a PowerPoint file that talked about how to use one of our medication databases. And then so the assignment was read this short slide set, and then take a quiz at the end. And so what the quiz contained wasn't all what the some of the questions that the quiz asked were not included in the slide set. And I was doing that on purpose. And so I wanted to show them that not everything is always going to be either in the course handout or in the module handout or in the module slides. And so then I had them listen to a video that corresponded with that slide set. And so in that video, I purposefully talked about, I demonstrated a few things and I talked about different aspects of drug interactions and kind of concepts that was pretty new to them at the time. But if they would have watched the video, then I had them take the quiz again. And what I was just trying to show them is that not everything that you might be tested on is always going to be in the physical file. That the importance of watching the videos and kind of engaging with that material is going to be not only helpful, but important also. And so then kind of, again, continue to discuss more of the, kind of how assignments work and how the live sessions work. And then different, I tried to come up with a checklist of tips and tricks and things like that. So that was kind of my attempt at increasing the knowledge of how to take the courses. And then, we kind of also, and this was what I was talking about, like learning theory. We had some videos and different instructions. And again, trying to get them used to the format. About how to learn, how to study. So not anything that had to do with our courses in particular, but different ways that maybe they could enhance their studies. So to try and give them some skills that would be helpful, especially in a online learning environment. And then I also introduced here a couple of articles about professionalism in pharmacy. So this was something that was added because our dean does do site visits for accreditation to other colleges of pharmacy, and he came back from one of the site visits, and the accreditation was asking this one school, where do they introduce professionalism into their curriculum? And so he was asking me, where do we introduce it? I'm like, well, it's interspaced everywhere. I'm like, I don't know if we actually do like a actual either lecture or module on it. So I thought, you know what, this would be a good place to introduce it into the orientation. It was a way to kind of incorporate, their future profession into the orientation, but also was a way that, if and when or when accreditation would come for our site visit, that I would have something I could point to that, yes, we talked about professionalism on day 2 of orientation, and that kind of set the stage for the next 4 years. And then on the last day, on the 3rd day, we did things like talking about procrastination, time management techniques. I had a student success coach come in and kind of do this portion of it. There was a good thing because that is, our student success coaches. That's where this is where their skills lie better than where my skills are. And the other benefit to it was they didn't have to hear me speaking for 2 hours straight for 3 days in a row, which they had already been subjected to for the first 2 days. And then what I really wanted to emphasize was the college and university support systems that are available to the students. So we could see here on this slide, there's Module 7C1, ROCHI tutoring. ROCHI is the Greek letters for RX. So that is our Pharmacy Honor Society that we have here on campus. And for one of their missions is that they provide free peer tutoring and different review sessions for different courses. And what we found in our first year was that our online students avoided asking for help from our campus-based students. Kind of feel there was a little bit of an embarrassment factor there, a little bit of a pride factor. Um, I think our first online cohort, the average age of the student was a number of years older than our usual campus-based students. So I think that there was a little bit of a hesitancy to utilize the tutoring that was available for them. And so I really tried to emphasize in year two, if you start getting into trouble where you're falling behind or you're not understanding, do not hesitate to reach out. So that was, I made it a huge point of emphasis. We talked about it for quite a bit versus the year before. I probably had one slide and talked about it for about 45 seconds or so. And so what did we see post 2023? Well, we saw a greater student success. Students were actually knew how to engage with the material. We did see the statistics go up as far as students actually watching videos and kind of engaging with the material that way. Students, we did see increased participation. We saw that they were coming to the live sessions better prepared, which made the live sessions that much better, and that, excuse me, we had fewer logistical questions. So we didn't have to answer as many Canvas type questions that those things were kind of we'll say taught within that orientation time period. And I would say also faculty noticed, even though it wasn't something that we could specifically apply data to compare, but anecdotally faculty were much happier about the engagement from the students, the preparation of the students, and just their overall. We'll say we had less academic issues in our second cohort than we did in our first one. And then round three in 2024, there weren't really many significant changes from the year before. However, in this case, I did record all of the orientation days so that the students could have like the full opportunity to go back and re-listen to anything if they wanted to do that. And then our most recent addition, I did have to start adding some other elements into the orientation. And so one thing that we do with our courses, we do take live exams. So we do live proctor exams. So we do our exams on Zoom. And what we found in the year before, that we actually had a student who was cheating on their live exams by utilizing a phone behind a laptop screen that was not visible from our secondary device, which is what we use on Zoom. So in order to kind of to be fully transparent about what the expectations are, you can see here kind of at the bottom of the screen, we created a very specific instructional video about how to take our exams, what our expectations are. And so this was added at the orientation to make sure that all students had heard from the same source what the expectations were, and just little things like that. I could make this orientation go for 2 weeks if I were to add everything that faculty would like me to have discussed at an orientation, but there's no way that's going to happen. I actually kind of feel like we can even make it a little bit smaller as time goes on by being a little bit more efficient. But again, I would say our second, third, and fourth year orientations were much more successful than our first year. And so to kind of wrap up what I've been talking about today, our key takeaways were we needed to identify student struggles, causes, and needs. We needed to implement early support, and we needed to consider all available resources. And all of those put together did come out with or did result in an improved orientation. And so what does the future hold for the orientation process? One thing that I would like to do is Our admission cycle runs, we start admitting students in the fall, October, November, and then, for the next fall. And we admit them on a rolling basis all the way basically into the summer before the fall semester begins. Um, and what we kind of saw that, so a student that gets admitted in November or December, there's not a lot that they're doing, to kind of feel as part of the program uh, between that time of admission to the time of orientation in August. So we did create another Canvas course that kind of is a description of the entire program, and I'm thinking I'm going to start moving some of the material into that course so that the students can engage with it much earlier. So the pharmacy professionalism, the how to learn, like those kind of things that aren't specific to the Canvas course process, that they can start engaging with a little bit earlier. The other thing that we're going to start doing, we're going to start having virtual meetings with them in their before orientation. That way, they'll be able to talk to some current students, and then also start to meet each other. And then some of the faculty also. So to kind of to have touch points along the year from the time of admission to the time of orientation to make them feel as part of the community before we even start in August. And so if you were looking to do something like this in your own program, here are some of the questions to ask yourself. Where are the students struggling in your online program or course? How are we currently orienting students to the online space and to those courses? And are there ways in which we can better prepare students for success in our online program or courses? And then things to consider are partnering with people or teams that can help you explore creative solutions. And then again, establishing an ongoing evaluation process for your orientation that allows for continuous improvements and adaptation and added elements or decreasing elements when they're not needed. And with that, I will end the presentation here and open up for any questions.
Well, I have to tell you, that is as good of a plan as I've ever seen. I
Well,
would,
thank you.
if I was still working and I had to, work with faculty developing a program, an online program, man, I'd love to use this model to explain to them that you here are the things you need to do to be successful. It's just not slapping it together. Um, but really, you've done a great job. I know that um, getting continuous feedback to constantly improve the program. You can't just create it and then nothing changes. You have to be adaptable. You have to learn from the students what works, what doesn't work, what can be improved. Uh, the comment about uh, online students expected online courses strictly be lecture. You bump into that constantly. And it's the kind of thing right at the start. You need to explain to them it's not that. This is the way it's going to be. Here are the expectations of you, how you are going to engage with all the material. Um,
Yeah, and I would
I
say,
mean,
we learned that the hard way. And again, it was only a 1 year experience that and we were quick to adapt to it. So I'm actually proud of what we were able to do with that.
how many faculty participate in the program?
I'm not sure what the count is. It's a lot. Um, my guess is probably about 40 overall. Because with pharmacy faculty, kind of very similar to like medical school or nursing school, we have a lot of faculty who are actual practitioners. So for most of my career, I was actually based in a hospital where I was teaching students on that last year of their professional, like where they would come and do rotation with me. But then I would come to campus when I had my lectures for the materials that I taught and for my elective classes and things like that. So we have a lot of faculty who are kind of practice-based faculty and kind of out within the Indianapolis community. And so they might not, they might only teach 10% of a course, but by doing that, we do have faculty who are, experts in their field are the ones who are actually kind of coming in and teaching that material. And then we do have a sizable amount of faculty who are here based in the, at the university. And 90, I think like 98% of us teach both our material in the online setting and in the campus-based setting. So again, another way that we've made our program be very much the same, no matter which pathway, by having the consistency of instruction.
Do you have a program to essentially teach faculty how to teach online?
The university requires a program like an onboarding for anyone who teaches online. And then so that's the first requirement. The other thing that we do is I kind of talked about, we have these best practices sessions. And so I'm actually doing one a month from today. So on St. Patrick's Day, I will be leading another session where faculty will share. And I think a lot of us do learn from each other from that standpoint. I will also say, when we created the online courses, that whole 6 to 8 month process, there was a lot of, we'll say, indirect, we'll say, onboarding going on there. That's where a lot of faculty really kind of learned kind of the science behind online instruction, and were able to kind of establish what their differences were going to be between their classroom, discuss or instruction that they were used to, and how they would have to adapt and for the online setting.
I like how when you redid the online orientation, you really made it just like the program was going to be, so that
Yeah.
the students could get used to it right from the get-go. And really, I think you've done a great job putting that whole program together. I mean, it's detailed, and it responds to what the needs of the students are, uh, which gets bypassed often. Faculty think, well, this is the way it should be, and that's how I'm going to teach it. But that may not fit with what the students really need. So again,
Yeah.
I'm impressed. You did a
Well,
great job.
thank you. Thank you. We are definitely proud of what we've been able to accomplish. We are proud of what the students have accomplished, and we are really looking forward to a few months in May when we get to graduate our first cohort.
Well, terrific. Kevin, thanks for taking the time, even if it was mainly just talking to me. I am so glad, because really, that's about the best organized online program that I know of. So I'm really appreciative of you taking the time to do this.
Well, it was my pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, well, Kevin, have a good rest of the day, and I'm going to go to the next session then.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.